right. Today we're going to talk about a pretty wild management theory from Dr. Ichak Adizes. And it basically throws a grenade into decades of business school teaching. It asks this one kind of scary question. What if that expensive MBA you're so proud of is actually making you a worse manager? Yeah, let's get into it.
And the whole thing kicks off with this just bombshell of a confession from Dr. Adizes himself. I was a fake. Now you got to imagine hearing this from one of the most respected management gurus on the planet. It's the kind of thing that just makes you stop in your tracks and go, wait, what? Why would he say that?
I mean, this guy wasn't some imposter. We're talking about a tenured professor at UCLA. He was a visiting professor at places like Stanford and Columbia. He was at the absolute peak of the academic food chain. So what on earth could make a man like that feel like a complete and total fraud?
And that leads us right here to his confession. This is all about the personal crisis that actually sparked a revolution in how we think about management. It wasn't about him not knowing enough. It was about a really painful discovery he made out in the real world. So here was the deal. Dr. Adizes, right? He'd go into these big companies, do all the analysis, and write these absolutely brilliant, textbook perfect consulting reports. He'd hand it over, collect his check, walk out the door, and then crickets. Literally nothing would happen. All those brilliant plans, they just ended up sitting on a shelf collecting dust.
Or, and this is almost worse, the company would try to do what he said. He had this fantastic analogy for it. He would recommend a sleek, fast racing horse of a strategy. But by the time that idea went through all the corporate red tape and the internal politics, what came out the other side was a slow, clumsy camel. That beautiful, elegant idea was just completely mangled.
And this all led him to a really profound realization, the one that kicked this whole thing off. He realized he understood the what, the strategy, the finance, the marketing, but he had absolutely no clue about the how you actually get things done inside a messy, complex organization full of actual human beings.
This whole experience led him to pinpoint the absolute core problem in modern management today, something he called the Great Implementation Gap. It's this massive canyon between having a great idea and, actually getting a great result.
And this slide just lays out the problem with business schools so perfectly. On one side, you've got hundreds, literally hundreds of courses on how to make decisions. Marketing, finance, strategy, the whole 9 yards. And then on the other side, for implementation, for actually doing the thing, nothing. A big, fat zero. It's kind of crazy when you see it like that, right?
The entire academic system is built on this really flawed assumption that if you just make a brilliant decision, of course, it'll get implemented automatically. But Adizes says this isn't just wrong, it's a massive, incredibly expensive error that costs companies billions and billions of dollars.
So here's the bottom line. Success isn't about having the most brilliant idea on a whiteboard. A mediocre strategy that is actually executed flawlessly will beat a genius strategy that gets turned into a camel every single time. At the end of the day, execution is everything.
Okay, so that brings us to the next big piece of the Adizes doctrine, completely debunking the myth of the perfect leader. That ideal executive that business schools are just obsessed with trying to create.
Adizes broke it down and said there are 4 essential roles that every healthy organization needs. He calls it PAEI. You've got the producer, the person who gets results, the administrator, who keeps everything organized, the entrepreneur, who comes up with the big vision, and the integrator, who builds the team and the culture.
But here's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can one single person actually be great at all 4 of these things? I mean, can you really be a big-picture, visionary risk-taker and a meticulous, detailed-oriented rule follower? A hard-driving results machine and a sensitive, empathetic team builder?
And the answer, according to Adizes, is a hard no. Absolutely not. The ideal executive, this superhuman that MBA programs are trying to build in a lab somewhere, it's a complete myth. They don't exist in the real world because these roles require fundamentally different, even conflicting personality.
So if the perfect leader is a myth, what's the solution? It's a complementary team. See, you don't need a perfect individual. You need a balanced team where each person's strengths cover for somebody else's weaknesses. Adizes says it's just like a good marriage. You're not looking for a clone of yourself. You're looking for someone who completes you.
I love this analogy because it just perfectly captures the difference. Traditional MBA programs, they train you to be the pointing finger, You know, the boss who just points and tells people what to do, command and control. But Adizes says, no. A true leader is the thumb. And you think, the thumb, what? Well, think about it. The thumb is the only finger that can work with all the other fingers to make a functional, powerful hand. It's not about giving orders. It's about enabling the whole team to work together.
All right, now we get to the really disruptive part. Because Adizes, it doesn't just poke holes in the old way of doing things, he gives us a completely new formula for what actually creates success.
Okay, a core belief in every business school is structure follows strategy. First, you figure out your grand strategy, and then you build the organization to make it happen. Adizes says that's completely backward. He flips it right on its head. The truth, he says, is that strategy follows structure. Your existing power structure, who has the real influence, that's what's going to decide which strategies are even possible in the first place.
And he uses this really provocative term to describe the problem, the department in disguise. So for example, you might have a department that's called marketing, but if its structure has it reporting to the head of sales, it's not really a marketing department, is it? It's just a sales support team, totally focused on closing today's deals, not on building a brand for the future. The hidden structure is killing the stated strategy. So, if the old rules are all wrong, what's the new formula? Well, Adizes boils it all down to this one elegant equation. Success equals your external integration. That's how well you adapt to the marketplace, divided by your internal disintegration, which is basically how much chaos and infighting you have inside your own walls. And the takeaway from this is, well, it's huge. It means that success isn't really one out there fighting your competitors. It's one in here, inside your own company. Just think about it. Every single bit of energy your team wastes on politics, on backstabbing, on stupid internal fights, that is energy that you can't use to serve your customers and actually win in the marketplace. A healthy internal culture isn't just some nice-to-have thing. It is your single greatest competitive advantage, period.
And to wrap this all up, let's just look at Dr. Adizes' personal mantra, because it really summarizes the human side of all this. Speak without offending, listen without defending, live without pretending, and love without depending. It's a powerful reminder that cutting down on that internal chaos and building a team that actually works, well, that's not just a business strategy, it's a fundamentally human one. And that just might be the most important lesson of all.